Why some women make men feel both safe and terrified. Carl Jung. Have you ever wondered why some women leave men breathless, not with beauty, but with presence? Why her silence feels like shelter and danger, all at once? It is because she does not merely enter a man's life, she enters his unconscious. She is not chasing attention. She is not performing for affection. She is not seeking approval like a desperate child. No, she is rooted, whole, frighteningly still, and that stillness acts like a mirror. A mirror he cannot escape. A woman like this holds a man in ways he doesn't understand. Because she does not seduce him with surface, she awakens something ancient beneath it. She touches the archetype is buried, the mother he longed for, the goddess he repressed, the shadow he denied. And in that archetypal collision, he both feels home and threatened. Desired, yet disarmed. Most men spend their lives managing their personas, the carefully constructed masks they wear for the world. The hero, the provider, the protector. But when she looks at him, truly looks, the mask begins to melt. She sees past his strength, past his ambition, past his charm. She sees what even he won't touch. The wound beneath the armor. The boy beneath the man. And that terrifies him, because now he is exposed. Not in a way that weakens, but in a way that undresses the false self. She doesn't even have to say much. She can sit in a room and feel like a storm. Or like silence that devours every shallow word. Her energy disorients those who need control. She creates a psychological gravity, drawing out projection after projection. One man calls her divine. Another calls her cold. One feels reborn. Another feels attacked. But she has done nothing, except be whole. Carl Jung wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." She is the reaction, because she has faced her shadow. She has walked through fire without screaming for rescue. She knows how to sit inside her own darkness without blaming, without clinging, without begging someone else to fix her. She is dangerous, not because she harms, but because she doesn't need. And in a world addicted to validation, that is the ultimate disruption. You've seen her, maybe you are her, the woman who can smile at a compliment but doesn't crave it. The one who listens deeply but won't tolerate disrespect. The one who disappears when dishonesty enters the room, without explanation. Not out of malice, but out of instinct. Men don't just see her, they feel her. In their bones, in their nervous system, in their dreams. She unlocks memories they forgot, regrets they buried, longings they couldn't name. She reaches into their subconscious, not to manipulate, but to awaken. And awakening is painful, especially for a man who has not yet faced himself. She is both soft and sharp, gentle and unyielding. She gives warmth, but she does not chase. Her energy soothes the secure and destabilizes the avoidant. She is not a fantasy. She is a force, and that force pulls him toward evolution, or retreat. Because to love her is to dismantle the ego. Not through games, not through seduction, but through reflection. She is the woman who walks with her shadow beside her. And when she touches a man, truly touches him, he meets his own. Not all men can stay. Some will vanish, some will vilify her, some will call her too much. But those who are ready, those who have met their own pain with courage, they will feel something different. They will feel safe, and yes, also terrified. Because nothing is more terrifying than a love that doesn't depend on being loved back. Nothing is more dangerous to the ego than a woman who has already chosen herself. He tries to explain her, to himself, to his friends. But how do you describe a feeling you've never had before? How do you confess that her presence doesn't flatter your ego, it disorients it? It's because she does not engage with his persona. She does not laugh at the performance. She does not reward the role. She speaks directly to the man beneath the mask, and if he has never known that man, it feels like violence. And yet, it also feels like truth. Some women awaken lust, others awaken longing, but she awakens a reckoning. He suddenly sees how much of his life has been architecture for approval. How many of his choices were about being wanted, not being known. And now, faced with a woman who already wants nothing, he is asked, "Who are you without your accolades, without your armor, without your audience?" You see, she doesn't ask for vulnerability. She requires it, simply by existing. And if he cannot meet her in that space, he will try to diminish her. He'll call her complicated, cold, intimidating. He'll say she's the reason he's silent, when in truth, he's afraid of what he might say. Not to her, but to himself. Because the man who has not faced his inner boy will always find her terrifying. In Jungian terms, she is the living mirror of Anima, the unconscious feminine within every man. Not the fantasy Anima, not the idealized lover who praises and pleases, but the shadow Anima. The dark feminine, the part of him that feels, hurts, desires, softens, the part he was told to kill if he ever wanted to be, a real man. She does not resurrect it. She simply reminds him it never died. And when it stirs in him, when it whispers behind the ribs, he feels things he cannot control. Emotion, yearning, grief, rage. He wants to run. He wants to possess. He wants to disappear into her. He wants to be left alone. She becomes the symbol of everything he has disowned, and therefore, everything he has projected. Some will try to own her, to cage her with promises, gifts, or declarations. But her soul is not for sale. She has seen too many men perform love like a monologue. She has tasted connection that wasn't safe. So she waits, watches, listens to what is not said, feels what is behind the eyes. She is not a test, but she does reveal. You may notice her in the way she withdraws quietly, without drama. The way she honors your words but does not chase after them. The way her absence makes the room feel colder, not because she took something, but because she was something. The man who is still asleep will confuse this with detachment. He will think she is unbothered. He doesn't realize her detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. It is the calm of a woman who no longer confuses pain with purpose. Who no longer sacrifices herself for potential. Who no longer stays where growth is refused. He may feel rejected, but what he actually feels is unready. She doesn't need him to prove himself, only to meet himself. And that is a journey only he can take. Because to truly love her is not to win her. It is to face yourself. The man who stays, not out of need, but presence, is the one who has wrestled with his ghosts. Who has sat with his failures. Who has wept without witnesses and stood back up without applause. He meets her not with flattery, but with depth. Not with bravado, but with grounded strength. And in him, she finally exhales. Because she is not hard to love. She is hard to fool. She is not closed off, she is highly attuned. Her protection is not a wall, but a filter. She knows what chaos feels like in the body, and she refuses to hold it again. She does not punish. She does not provoke. She simply sees. And for a man who is ready to be seen, fully, she is not terrifying. She is sacred. She is sacred because she is sovereign. There is a kind of woman whose love is not performance but presence, not desperation but discernment, and that is why she unsettles those who confuse devotion with dependency. She offers no illusions. She does not wrap herself in the costume of what he wants. Instead, she stands as she is, entire. And that, for many men, is unbearable. Because to be with her is to admit, you can no longer pretend. She will not hold space for the unexamined ego. Not because she is cruel, but because she has spent too many nights cradling her own broken pieces. She has crawled out of rooms where she was only ever a mirror for male validation. And now, she does not reflect, she radiates. To be near her is to feel time slow down. The mind races, the heart stumbles, and the body remembers something primal. A sense of home, but also a warning, this is where your masks dissolve. And so men react in different ways. Some run, some rage, some retreat into charm, hoping charisma will distract her intuition. But she sees the flinch behind the smile. She hears what isn't being said. She knows when a man is performing love versus when he is embodying it. She can tell the difference between a man who wants her and a man who can hold her. This discernment is her power, and it's also her solitude. She is not alone because she's too much. She's alone because most people aren't enough, not in status, not in looks, but in presence. She is done pretending surface is soul. She would rather sit in silence with herself than in noise with someone who can't meet her there. And when a man does meet her, it's different. There are no games, no push and pull, no need for strategies or dramatics. Just a quiet recognition, soul to soul, that says, I see you, and I am not afraid of the truth you carry. But to get there, he must first walk through fire. He must confront the woman within himself, the anima. He must sit with the emotions he has labeled weak. Must meet the soft places he once feared. He must unravel the internal narrative that says strength is control and vulnerability is danger. Because when he meets a woman like her, that narrative will shatter. She does not want control. She wants congruence. She does not crave power. She craves presence. To the man who lives in armor, she will always feel like chaos. But to the man who has dropped the sword, she will feel like peace. Carl Jung believed that true transformation happens not through addition, but through integration. Not by becoming more, but by becoming whole. And that is what she represents, not fantasy, but wholeness. You can't possess her because she doesn't operate on the plane of ownership. She moves from choice, not compulsion. She stays because she wants to, not because she needs to. And that freedom terrifies the ego that feeds on control. She may love deeply, even fiercely, but never blindly. Her love is not conditional, but it is conscious. She knows her heart is powerful, and she does not give it to those who are asleep. You may feel her in the way she listens, not to respond, but to receive. In the way she pauses before speaking, like her words are not decorations but spells. In the way she touches, not to claim you, but to remind you that your soul is sacred, too. And if you lose her, You will feel it. Not just in the empty space beside you, but in the way every other smile suddenly feels hollow. In the way your own words sound thinner. In the way the air gets quieter, not just around you, but within you. Because she is not just a woman. She is a mirror. And when she is gone, you are left only with yourself. And what do you see in that mirror when she is gone? For some men, it is the first time they've looked, truly looked, without distraction. Without her gaze reflecting their worth. Without her energy filling the silence they never learned to sit with. That's when the grief arrives. Not for her body, not for her presence, but for what she revealed. She was not the missing piece. She was the flashlight, the door, the unraveling. And in losing her, a man begins to understand, he never really had her, not in the way he wanted. Because to have her is not to keep her. It is to rise to her. To walk beside her in full consciousness, not behind her in fear or ahead of her in ego. This realization does not come easily. The masculine mind, trained to conquer, calls her loss a failure. But the masculine soul, once awakened, knows it was an invitation. An invitation to self. In Jungian theory, every man must eventually confront the feminine within him. The Anima. She appears first in dreams, fantasies, obsessions. She is projected onto lovers, desired in music, feared in vulnerability. She is the bridge to feeling, to depth, to God, but most men run from her. Until they meet a woman who embodies her. And suddenly, everything shifts. He is no longer chasing sex, he is chasing soul. He is no longer avoiding his pain, he is hearing it echo in her silence. He is no longer performing love, he is being called to become it. She doesn't force this journey. She ignites it. Her presence is a catalyst. Not through force, but frequency. She vibrates at a level that the unhealed cannot fake. That the dishonest cannot manipulate. That the unaware cannot even see. And when a man rises, when he steps forward not in performance but in presence, she meets him with all the depth he thought was just poetry. He feels her softness, not as submission, but as sacred trust. He feels her openness, not as access, but as invitation. She does not test him. Life will do that. She simply watches how he responds. Does he collapse into old patterns when she steps away for air? Does he attack her boundaries and call it passion? Does he confuse intimacy with control? Or does he hold the space, feel the fear, and stay anyway? Let her be wild without needing to tame her? The man who can do this is rare. Not because the bar is high, but because so few have done the inner work. And make no mistake, she knows the difference. You can buy her flowers, say the right words, plan the perfect night, but if your soul is asleep, she will feel it. You cannot fake depth with a woman who lives in it. You cannot manipulate the intuitive. She is not reading your actions. She is reading your energy. If you think that makes her intimidating, then ask yourself, is she too much? Or are you too disconnected? To love a woman like her is to be willing to walk through the ruins of who you were. To lay down the armor. To unclench the fists. To listen, not to respond, but to understand. She is not impressed by noise. She does not seek perfection. She seeks presence. And when she finds it, not in the fantasy, but in the flawed, honest man who is willing to grow, she softens. Not because she is finally won, but because she is finally safe. That is the irony. She terrifies men who are not safe within themselves. And she soothes the man who is. When a man is safe within himself, not stagnant, but steady, she opens in ways that defy logic. She doesn't open out of duty or need. She opens because her body finally whispers, you can rest here. You see, the empowered woman is not hardened. She is guarded. And there's a difference. She is not bitter, she is boundaried. She is not closed, she is selective. She's not waiting for a man to heal her. She's waiting for a man who has healed enough to not fear her depth. Because she will pull him deeper. Not with demands, not with pressure, but with the sheer gravity of her presence. She is the call to remember. To remember what love feels like when it's no longer tethered to fear. To remember what connection feels like when it is not chasing, performing, proving, but simply being. And for the man who answers the call, something sacred begins. It is not a relationship. It is an initiation, into honesty, into depth, into lover's devotion, not transaction. The empowered woman does not want to possess. She wants to partner. And her partnership is not romantic by default, it is spiritual by nature. She's not just inviting him into her heart. She's inviting him into his own soul. And that is why she has been feared, misunderstood, avoided. Because most were not taught how to meet love as an equal, only how to dominate, chase, or escape it. But the tides are turning. More men are waking up. Not to become softer, but to become whole. Not to abandon their strength, but to root it in truth. They are realizing that emotional literacy is not weakness. That stillness is not passivity. That self-inquiry is not indulgence, it is responsibility. And as they rise, the chasm between fear and connection begins to narrow. These men are not afraid of her fire. They sit beside it. They tend it with reverence. Because they know, it is the same fire that burns within them. They no longer see her depth as a threat, they see it as an echo. These are the men who do not try to tame her wildness. They honor it, because they've met their own. They don't shrink when she's angry. They don't flinch when she cries. They don't retreat when she's silent. Because they've learned to stay, to feel, to hold steady in the eye of intensity. And in doing so, they don't just become lovers, they become mirrors too. In the arms of such a man, the empowered woman doesn't just feel seen, she feels met. Not idolized, not tamed, not handled, met. And from that meeting, a new kind of love is born. A love without performance, a love without power games. A love that feels like standing barefoot on sacred ground, not because it's perfect, but because it's real. And when that happens, the dance between them changes. It's no longer a chase. It's no longer a test. It's two souls walking each other home, barefoot, bleeding, laughing. The woman who once terrified him now holds his truth. And the man who once triggered her now carries her safety. Because healing didn't make him smaller, it made them ready. And so they love, not with desperation, but with devotion. Not with fear, but with reverence. Not with conditions, but with clarity. And when two people love from that place, from clarity, not chaos, something ancient returns. Not the high of infatuation. Not the drama of obsession. But the deep hum of recognition. The way waves know the shore. The way fire knows the wick. This love does not chase. It calls. It doesn't plead. It welcomes. And for the woman who once felt too much, too intense, too untamed, it is an exhale centuries long. Because now, she is not worshipped for her beauty or adored for her mystery. She is received in her entirety. The thorns and the bloom. The silence and the scream. The ache and the awakening. She no longer needs to explain her softness or armor her sensitivity. She no longer tiptoes around the fragile ego of a man who hasn't met his own pain. She no longer shrinks in the name of compatibility. She no longer overextends in the name of connection. Because she has learned the greatest truth, that the man who is meant for her, is not the one who tames her. He is the one who meets her, breath for breath, wound for wound, soul for soul. And in that meeting, there is no war, no battlefield, only stillness, the kind of stillness where two hearts rest, not because they've given up, but because they've come home. This is not the love that burns fast and disappears. This is the fire that simmers for decades, that grows stronger with time, because it is built not on illusion, but on wholeness. She is no longer the terrifying woman. She is the liberated one. The woman who walks with her shadow behind her, not dragging it like a curse but wearing it like a crown. She smiles without needing to be liked. She speaks without shrinking. She chooses without chasing. And that smile, that presence, does something to men. It disarms. It humbles. It calls them out of performance and into presence. Because in her light, there is no hiding. And in her silence, there is no escape. She is the final test. The last threshold. The mirror and the storm. And only those who have done the work will see her, not as danger, but as destiny. Because the woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.